Today's interview is with Nate Smith. Nate is the first ever repeat guest on the show, so that's pretty special in itself. That should tell you enough about Nate. But Nate came back because he's been to a few events. So we wanted to talk about that, why he likes going to events, why we think there's value to going to events. And he's kind of changed up his company a little bit. They've changed their focus. So we wanted to talk about all that stuff, as well as some more mindset stuff that we want to talk about money and the mindset aspect of money. So really cool interview. Repeat guest. Enough said, right? As always, like and subscribe on Wrestling with Real Estate, the YouTube channel. Go to the WWRE podcast and give me a 5-star rating and write me a review if you think it's worthy. And I'm looking to speak to as many of you as possible. If you're interested in real estate, you love real estate just like me, I would love to talk to you and get to know more about you. So there's going to be a link in the description down below, or go to wrestlingwithrealestate.com. But first, watch all of this repeat guests interview with Nate Smith. Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Real Estate, where we look to chokeslam all your real estate problems. I'm your host, former WWE wrestler, and now Cirque du Soleil performer, and of course, multifamily real estate investor, Barri Griffiths. Now today is the first ever repeat guest. Nate Smith, how you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, Barry? I'm doing fantastic. Thanks so much for having me back on the show. I'm excited to...
Yeah. We've been keeping in touch since that, and you know, we thought you'd be a great guy to bring back, and with so much to talk about, and I like talking to you in general. We were talking for quite a bit before this, so it'll be a fun one. It's got some different stuff, some updates about what you've been up to, and it's just going to be an all-round good interview, I can tell. So, but before that, do you want to give us an idea about your background for those people who may have not listened to it? And by the way, anyone who wants to go back, it's episode 44. So if you want to go back on the podcast, it's episode 44, well worth checking out. But give us an idea about your background, what you've been up to, what your current focus is.
Sure. Yeah, so big background. So I started out in the military. I did 13 years in the military, still serving part-time in the Air National Guard, fly C-130 aircraft. And then our main focus outside of that is multifamily investing. And then we have my wife and I have a financial services company. Right now, our biggest focus is kind of our brand. So our brand is Your Cash Flow Couple. And we're the big focus on tying in the financial services business, where we teach people and help people with financial strategies to be able to hit their goals. We tie that a lot into real estate investing, helping people with strategies to be able to get into multifamily investing, whether it's, maybe they need help with figuring out a strategy financially to get there, have the money to invest, figure out their time piece, looking for a business opportunity to give them more time freedom to be able to get into real estate. So those are a couple areas we focused on. And then also a big part of our brand and thing we're really pushing out as our message is just mindset, and then also working together as a couple and inspiring other spouses and other couples to be able to work together and work towards their dreams and goals. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and that's what we're excited about.
Cool. Well, we'll jump into all that in a little bit. But beforehand, we were talking, and this is really interesting. We talked a little bit about it, but there's been a few cool events that you've been to, right? And I'm always interested when people go to events, what they learn and kind of stuff. But maybe talk about the two events you went to and why you decided to go to them. Because I hear people talking about, hey, should I go to this event? Is it worth it? A lot of times they cost money, right? But that money you get back a lot of times. But talk about the two events that you went into and why you kind of decided to go to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a big fan of events. I don't mind spending the money for the events because I know I'm probably going to meet somebody. Like, you only need to be one person that can make or break, change everything. So a couple of big events since we last spoke. I'm a big fan of Grant Cardone on the 10X network. So I was he did a virtual sales boot camp recently. And I just went there because it was just good to kind of just, get better at marketing. Actually before that, leading up to his boot camp, he did a 10-day 10X challenge. So every day he had different big guests that came on, and they just talked about different, whether it's mindset, marketing, money, wealth, all those different aspects. And so I just like getting those groups. It just gives you an extra boost of motivation, extra just like you want to get around other people that are motivated, moving forward. Sometimes, especially this year, this year with COVID, a lot of you can't do events as much. Events have been canceled, and it's hard to there's just something about being around other people. It kind of motivates you, pushes you to the next level. And so that's been lacking this year. And so that's one of the reasons why I did that first one, is just kind of get plugged back in, get around some of the people that are go-getters going after it. And then the most recent one we went to was Secret X. So it's a business mindset, multifamily, kind of geared more towards multifamily, a mastermind deal. And this most recent one we did in Jamaica, and it was awesome. We rented out a whole resort with a group we're part of, and it was just the unique thing about that event was it was more geared towards just building connections and relationships. And so had a blast doing that. And yeah, so we're just excited right now, just continue to build and grow and keep pushing forward. But what I like about events, one thing Grant Cardone talks about that I really taken from him is always have another event you're going to that pulls you forward. So like you go to one event, have a goal coming out of the event you're going to hit, but then have another event that's going to pull you towards the next one and make sure you're doing something that's going to get you there. Because sometimes these events can be expensive, but if you have a plan to take care of it, it motivates you to keep it going.
Yeah, and I think with a lot of events, it's so that money, right? They cost money, and I hear people say that. And I understand that concern, right? But with a lot of stuff, these events only work if you do, right? Unless you work and you apply what you learn, and you're out there intentionally networking with people, and you're open to all the opportunities that come along that way. Otherwise, yes, probably don't go if you don't think you're going to work hard on what you learn.
Yeah, exactly.
Do all those stuff. Yes, it's going to be a waste of money, but you go to an event and it's 10 grand. I'm just making numbers up in my head now, but the 10 grand in this event, right? But then in the next few months, you get a deal that makes you 200 grand. Well, I'll do that. I'll go to that event all day, every day, right? And it's not always that instantaneously. It's the relationships that you build, and it's long-term. And like you said, all you need is one person to change your life. Yep. Literally, like you found that right person that's going to help you or bring you the right deal or teach you the right things, right? That can literally change your life. And if you don't go to these events, if you're sitting at home on the couch or whatever it is, right, you're never going to meet these people. Yep. And it's also just what you said. I love what you said, that you're surrounded by go-getters, right? You're surrounded by people of the similar mindset, because it's not easy to find people, whatever you're doing, real estate business, cryptos, whatever you're doing, that have a similar mindset. If you can be around those people and they have similar goals, sometimes bigger goals, achieving more, right? They're going to drag you along with you, right? You don't want to, what's the saying? You don't want to be this, you want to be the dumbest person in the room, right? You want to be surrounded by the smartest people and the most successful, because they're going to drag you up. And I love that you're like so active in going after, I see you on Facebook doing all that stuff, and I'm like, wow, that's awesome. I love that. And hey, the Secret X, it's never bad going to Jamaica.
No.
Days, right? That can never hurt, right? To be
that was first time going, and it was a great experience. I had a blast. I definitely recommend it.
Awesome. I'm guessing there was a few beers drank as well.
A few. That's a big part of the event. I mean, it was just opportunity. We had a few speaking events like each day, very very little, but most of the time was geared towards just building connections. Whether it's hanging out, having different meals together, going out on the ocean. Just some ATVing, just to do cool events, and it's just about building those connections, building those relationships. Unlike a lot of events you go to, where it's mostly a lot of speaking, you exchange business cards, and hopefully you remember who that person was.
Yeah, I'm sure those people that you're ATVing or you're going on a catamaran with, you're building a much stronger relationship than someone you're sat next to, but you're listening the whole time, right? You may be able to say a few words here and there, but you're building genuine relationship where people, like you said, I think you said it there, that people are going to remember you, right? I'm sure most people there are going to remember you because you guys connected, you guys got together as a group, and I think that's such a cool event. I think much better than just being in a room of 3,000 people, right? How many people are you going to connect with in that time? Yeah. And then going back to the Grant Cardone sales boot camp, right? I think that's what it was called. Mm-hmm. What are some things that you obviously you paid for it, so don't tell us everything, but share some stuff that you maybe learn from that event, because I think we're all in sales, right? Whether you like it or not. Take that word sales out, right? It can mean so much more, but people get so transfixed on that sales word. They're like, I don't want to do sales. I don't want to be salesy. Well, it's what we do every single day. I had to persuade my wife to leave the house early with my son. That was sales, right? It was a tough sale, but it's what you do every day. So I'd be interested in some things that you kind of took away from that.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing I took away from it was just the concept of promoting. Like, you have to promote, and today, like, it's so noisy out there, and you have to just promote relentlessly. So one of the biggest things he talks about is promote. And if you're not, and then figure it out. Like, and so that's the biggest thing for me. Like, even when that's the thing. I'm trying to go do more podcasts, putting my own content out there, do more video, to start a YouTube channel. Just putting more content out there because it builds that know, like, and trust. I mean, I go back to how we ultimately got into multifamily, and which ultimately led us into also our financial services business. It was through promoting. It was, we started out in some Facebook groups. We were doing a lot of Facebook lives, just kind of promoting ourselves in that group. And not like self promoting what, our services, just like who we were. We do different, workout challenges and different stuff just to foster community inside the group. But through that, we got connected with somebody who led us to Rod Khleif and his network. We went to one of his events. That was the first event we went to that was multifamily focused. And then through that whole process, that's how we got into the multifamily. So kind of fell off that over the summer and getting back into the promoting, and it pays off big time. I mean, for sure. So promoting is the biggest thing I took from it. And the other one was just money mindset. Like, you want to become a wealthy legacy, like you have to decide first. You have to go learn what to do with the money. That was the first thing Grant talked about. I think this really applies in the multifamily, space, because you want to invest in multifamily. It's because you want to do something bigger. And so having that mindset to switch it, hey, I want to be wealthy, and then you got to figure out what are the steps to get there. And one of the things that Grant always talks about when it comes to money, that I like, very simplifying it very a lot, is just saying you got to go out and you got to make the money, obviously. And it doesn't matter if you like what you do or not. You just got to go out there and you got to make it. You store that money somewhere safe until you get until you grow it enough to where you can invest into something that's an asset. I think society today, we're taught we spend money so fast. We go take on debt so quickly, and we never have an opportunity to build up, enough cash to be able to, go invest into a multifamily deal that's going to pay us cash flow. That then we can pay for all those other things that, we tend to get too soon in life.
Yeah. I like what you said. You have to decide, right? You have to decide that, you're going to be successful. You have to decide that you're going to invest in multifamily and that you're going to do big things or whatever you're going to do, right? You have to make that decision. Once you make that decision, it's so much easier to figure everything out because you've decided, right? In your head, it's that switch between, I wish I had money, or I wish I had this, or, if only, if this and that. Once you decide, like, I'm going to do this, right? It's the difference between someone who's trying to quit smoking saying, I'm trying to quit smoking, to saying, I don't smoke.
Yeah.
That's huge, right? It's just how you frame it. Once you make that decision, I think that's huge. And I also like that, what you said about the money thing, right? We live in an instant gratification thing, right? But you can buy everything on credit now, right? You can pay a monthly payment for it. And then all of a sudden you have no money over because everything goes towards your debts, right? But, if you can delay that instant gratification and save up and do what other people want, right? It's that saying, do now what others want so you can live a life that others can't, right? It's like, just, you've got to sacrifice a little bit. It doesn't mean like living like a miser, like doesn't mean living like a Scrooge, but it just means being a little smarter with your money and sacrificing a little bit now so you benefit later. So I love those lessons and takeaways that you shared. But, we had you on, like I said, on episode number 4, but there's been a few things that's changed since then. And that's another reason why we kind of decided to go, to do this interview. I'm excited for you to share with everyone kind of some of the things that's changed since last time and what's going on with that.
Yeah, so the biggest things, obviously the business is still growing. Real estate kind of has been slow this year. We've been putting offers out, just nothing's quite hit yet. But that's the name of the game, right? And then the other thing is, we kind of launched, my wife and I launched our brand, Your Cash Flow Couple. And kind of the idea we've been trying to figure out, like, what value can we put out into the world versus just promoting like our products and services and things like that. We wanted to be able to put some value out there and some things that we've learned along the way. We've been married for almost 11 years, and so we wanted to, and we figured out how to work out together. We do business together, we do life together, we do a lot of things together, and that was kind of our goal. And we wanted to build a business together. And one of the things we want to do is inspire other couples to be able to do the same thing. And figure out how can you work together with your spouse? How can you build something together? And it doesn't mean you're always going to be exactly aligned on the same page, but the end goal has to, the end goal has got to be the same. Like, one of the biggest things for like my wife and I is, for her motivation is geared more towards helping her family, philanthropic type activities, things like that. That's her big why of why she wants to build a big business and why she wants to build wealth. For me, that is also part of it. But my motivation was things like, I love flying airplanes. So I want to buy like a fighter jet someday. I want to buy a helicopter. I want to do some of those types of things. But I also want to be philanthropic too. But we had to just figure out, like, what was our ultimate motivation, once we got that figured out, then what we had to do to get there, like basically the end goal is you have to have money to do either one of those things. And so once we got that figured out, that we figured out our motivations to drive and push hard and work hard. So and we just love working together. You know, we've been able to figure that out. And it's hard for a lot of couples to figure that piece out. So we just want to be an inspiration for others to do that. And the other piece is just you know, helping people, just making sure that they're, when it comes to finances, strengthening their financial, you know, financial literacy illiteracy is a huge problem in American society today. And so a big part of our mission is also teaching financial literacy and helping people, you know, build their financial foundations and get in a position to win for their families and not be, you know, not struggling their whole life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, you know, as a couple, any couple out there, right, there's always challenges with trying to work together and figure things out, right? And you know, you always want to have the best relationship, best marriage, best whatever, right? Because obviously that leads to happiness. But, you know, I think it's challenging a lot of people's, you know, for a lot of times I hear that one of the couple is interested in real estate, you know, the guy or the girl, whatever, right? And they're interested in real estate, and the other person isn't, right? They're scared of real estate. They don't want to save. They don't want to, you know, do all that stuff, right? And we might do we talked about before, maybe doing a series on couples, how couples can kind of work at all this stuff. But, you know, do you have any advice for someone who maybe is in that situation, you know, in terms of they love real estate, they see the power of real estate, they see what it can create for their life, and the other person isn't, you know, that light bulb moment hasn't happened for them. So, you know, how they can maybe approach it a little bit.
Definitely. And one thing for sure is that every couple is going to be different as far as, like, you know, sometimes you're going to find where both of them get on the exact same page. They both work like hard together. Sometimes you just, the other ways is just to give the other spouse is just supportive. Like, they believe in what's going on. Maybe they're not as passionate about the specific thing you're doing, but at least they're on board and they're supportive of it. I would say one of the biggest things for my wife and I is we had to figure out what motivated us. And so for several, you know, early on in our marriage, like, I've always been pretty motivated, pretty like gung-ho, wanting to do something big. And for several years, I was just always asking my wife, like, hey, what do you want? Like, if you had $1 million, what would you do with it? And getting her to think outside the box. And it took several years before because she kind of grew up with, like a lot of us, and I grew up like this as well, is we have these false beliefs about money. You know, money's the root of all evil and all these different things. And the reality is, it just reveals who you really are. So if you're a good person and you are going to do good things, it's just going to give you the ability to do more good things. And so just kind of figuring out what motivated her in our case, ultimately was what kind of got us to where we are today. Now we're very much on the same page. We're building two businesses together, and we work together very closely. And, you know, our motivations are slightly different. The things that drive us, our whys, are slightly different. But that's only what you got to find out is your whys don't have to be the same. It's just figuring out what each of your individual whys are, and then agreeing on the path that you're going to go on together. Because when you get both of you aligned as far as what you're doing together, you can exponentially get to your goals faster. Because, you know, anytime you have a team, you get faster, and your first team can be your spouse. So,
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I like that as well. That if you both figure out your why, it doesn't need to be the same thing, right? And that's so interesting, right? You think that your why would need to be the same, but that's not the point, right? Because you can find whatever whys you guys want. So one can be over here and the other can be over here, but find the similar, get in the same vehicle, right? Yeah. Drive the same car, or whatever analogy you want to use. And it doesn't matter what vehicle that is to some extent, especially if you have a goal in mind, right? For a lot of us, we're using real estate, but it's not that. We love properties and we love brick and we love the architecture, right? It's not that, right? We love real estate because of what we can see that it can achieve for us. And if there was another vehicle, I'm sure this or that. So I think you can both fall in love with that vehicle as long as you have that why that's clearly defined, that you can see that vehicle is going to take you to. So I think that's a huge piece of advice that anyone can kind of take away from that. No, you also said you were talking about, you guys are working on financial illiteracy, right? People's financial illiteracy. And I think that's rampant throughout the US and throughout the world, right? But it's definitely, you can kind of see it here, all the time. What are some of the stuff that you guys work on initially, that when you work with clients, or is it different? Is there a common theme, I guess, is what I'm asking?
I mean, the very first thing is mindset. Like, people, most of us are raised a certain way. Society teaches us certain things. Whether it's directly or just through osmosis and through our environments. first thing is just getting the mindset right. If someone's not a saver, like getting the mindset right about why you save, and you're not just saving to save, you save to invest. Teaching the mindset of what do the wealthy do with their money versus what most people do with their money. And that's the very first thing we work on is mindset. And then from there, we start putting together a plan and a strategy so that they can start making those habits. Then it's just habits. Like it's not about, in the beginning for a lot of folks, this depends on the situation. For some folks, it's the habit of saving every single month, whether it's $50 a month, $100 a month. It's the habit of always paying yourself first, even if it's a small amount. Then eventually that will grow to build those habits. So, or investing consistently, things like that. So that's really the first thing we're looking at is mindset, and then just teaching the principles of how money really works, the power of compound interest, the rule of 72. What does tax impact look like? What are your fees and expenses if you're choosing to invest in a 401k or an IRA? How is that affecting your long-term plan and things like that? And then like a lot of our clients, because they know we do real estate, they're also interested in wanting to invest in multifamily or other types of real estate. So we're helping them with strategies to be able to get into a position so that they can invest. If they can't do it yet, maybe they don't have the time, or they don't have the money, or they don't have both. And so we help, whatever the situation may be, we have options to be able to help them in those different areas.
What is the rule of 72?
Rule of 72. So this is an awesome rule. So rule of 72 is a way to figure out how fast you can double your money based on a rate of return. So you take 72 divided by the rate of return that you're earning. So let's just say you're investing into real estate and you're earning a 12% rate of return. You should double your money about every 6 years. About every 6 years, you double your money if you're getting about 12%. And so your goal, or if you're earning 6%, or 8%, whatever it is, you'll do the math and it'll tell you what it is. I don't have my calculator in front of me, but basically you do that. And the goal is to get as many doubles in your lifetime as possible. So, and it also brings the power of compound interest. So, you can apply it in a lot of different ways. You can apply it to, if I'm putting my money somewhere, how is it going to perform? But you can also apply it to things like if I have credit card debt and my credit card is charging me, the average is 15 to 18%, but they can legally charge up to 29.99. Do the math on that. In this case, say it's 30%. They're probably doubling their money every 2.5, 3 years. So that's another way to look at it. How come it's so hard to get out of debt? Well, you can look at it and say, well, no wonder they're doubling their money every few years. So even if you're paying extra, sometimes it can still look like, why is this taking so hard? You can apply it to, and there's a lot of different areas you can apply it, but it's a really powerful rule to just know anytime you're investing money, if someone says I'm going to get this rate of return, what is it really going to do for me? So.
Yeah, interesting. And then you said something there as well, which I love, is the pay yourself first, right? What does that mean for people who don't understand? I think Kiyosaki talks about it in his Rich Dad Poor Dad book.
Yeah, paying yourself first is when you make money, and it works. If you work for a job, they automatically take your taxes out. So there's not a whole lot you can do there, but whatever money comes in, first you decide, I'm going to take so much, I'm going to pay myself first. And that doesn't necessarily mean, that's not paying yourself first to go spend it. I'm going to take this amount of money from me to go invest for me. So I'm going to put this over here for my future, for whatever it is my goals are. And then whatever's left over, then I go pay my expenses, I pay off my debt, whatever it is else is going on. I pay with the rest of my money, I pay those other things. So in the beginning, the habit is the most important piece. So if the habit is I can only take $50 a month and put it over here for my future, then you do $50 a month. Your goal is obviously to build that up. And the rule that a lot of the wealthy talk about is, be able to save at least 40% or invest at least 40% of your income for your future, live on the 60. That's kind of the ultimate goal to get to. And that's what, a lot of the wealthy people I study talk about, like Grant Cardone talks about it and Robert Kiyosaki talks about it and some others. So.
Yeah, I think it's another mindset thing, right? Is that it's ultimately saving in a way, right? Or unless you're putting it out straight away to stocks or something like that, but you're taking that money first. So you're not spending it on anything, right? You're not spending it on dinners or stupid stuff, right? You're taking that money and you're saying, this is my future money. This is what's going to make me have a better, brighter future. And I'm going to take it now before anyone else gets their hands on it. And then you figure out how to do everything else. Because if you take it first, your bills and everything else like that, they're still going to be there, and you're going to figure out how to do it, but you've still taken that money. Whereas if you pay all your bills and everything you owe first, well, you might not have anything left. So I think it's a powerful concept, I think, and it's changing that mindset like you talked about.
For sure, because one of the most powerful things with money, one of the eighth one of the world, Albert Einstein talks about it, is the power of compounding.
Mm-hmm.
And the most important part of that's the formula is time. And so if you're waiting to save, you lose time. Like it can become a huge impact on what ultimately you have in the future, in the future and retirement, whatever that looks like for you. So having that habit early on is massively, because once that compound kicks in, you don't notice it at the beginning, like the first 10, 15 years, like it's like small, but then you hit that hockey stick where it just kind of starts taking off. But you can never get there unless you have that time piece. And so it's important to have that habit, as early on as possible. Teach your kids that. I mean, it's so important. If you can teach them when they're young and they get their birthday money and they get all sort of stuff, teach them, hey, you're going to take, 10% of this and you're going to put it in this jar and you're never going to spend it. It's always going to stay there. And then eventually when they can get into investment options and stuff like that, you can teach them that stuff too.
Yeah. I think there's a analogy is if you play 18 holes of golf, right, and you start playing for 10 cents or something, I think like that, and every hole you double that. So the next hole you double it. By the time you get to the 18th hole, it's like $1 million or something. It's a lot. So I think just shows you how powerful it is. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But you've talked about it a few times there, and I think the mindset aspect of money is just so interesting because unfortunately it just has such a negative thing about it, right? Money. If you're thinking about money, you're talking about money, saving money, whatever, you're just this crazy guy who's just obsessed with money, right? But for a lot of us, money isn't just what you have in the bank, the dollar amount or whatever it is. It's what it creates for yourself. It's that life. None of us are like, oh my God, I've got $1 million. Let me touch that $1 million, or let me recount it. Let me take a dive into that $1 million or whatever. Yeah. It's not that, right? It's the life that you can create for yourself through that money. And I think sadly that it just has such a bad energy about it if for people who've been have that mindset, right?
Yep. No, for sure. I mean, you look at it, the ones who talk about money the most are usually the ones that don't have it, and the ones that do have it don't talk about it that much. Because that's it's kind of ironic. It's almost like catch-22 because I've had people like, oh, money's not everything, all this stuff, but then you ask them if they want to go do something, oh, I don't have any money, or I can't afford it. They're always saying I can't afford it. And then when I started hanging around wealthy people, and just like there's good wealthy people and there's bad wealthy people. There's good poor people and there's bad poor people. Like it doesn't matter. It's across the board. It gets amplified, I guess, if you have money and you're more public. But when I started hanging around good wealthy people who were doing good things, I realized that it just amplified who they already were. And obviously, I feel like to achieve certain levels of success, including having wealth, is personal development and developing yourself to always be a better person, get to the next level, things like that. But I realized that they're able to have bigger impact. They have foundations. They can support things that are important to them that they believe in, and most of us can't, and so, or we can, which is, it's $100 a month that we put towards something, which I'm not saying saying that's bad or anything like that. But if you want to do bigger, you want a bigger impact, you got to figure out ways to make more money.
Yeah, and it's like you said as well. It's like a lot of people who are wealthy, they do, this obviously there are bad people, right? But in any walk of life, but a lot of them are doing good, right? They really are, and they're good people that help people. And what I always say to people when they say, "Oh, I don't care about money," okay, well, don't you have anyone in your family that if you had $10 million that you could hit, your mother who didn't have to work anymore, or you could buy a nice house, or your family who's never been on a family trip together, you could create these memories together, or a sister who's struggling with 2 kids and is a single mom, right? There's no one you could help.
Exactly.
And then they kind of, well, yeah. So you don't need to necessarily make that money for yourself. It's nice if you do, and a lot of us are doing that, but you can help so many people with that money, right? And if you just kind of change that mindset, it kills me sometimes when people just see people who want to make money as just evil. And like, what's the saying, right? You said earlier, the money of money is the root of all evil. Yeah, but it's not. That's the wrong saying. They've agreed it. The money is the root of all evil above all else, right? When you worry about money above all else, yeah, absolutely. But that's not the case with 99.9% of us. And it kills me, that mindset that people aren't, And I think, what it is sometimes, I think as well as it is, I think it's people, it's easy to be like, oh, yeah, money's bad for you. I don't want to be greedy. I don't want to go. So they don't have to do anything.
Oh yeah.
So they've justified their laziness. They've justified them staying in the same lane. They've justified why they're not being successful. Oh yeah, no, I don't want to be one of those greedy people. I don't want to have a lot of money because I don't need money to be happy, right? And it justifies their situation in their life, and they don't have to feel bad about it. And they don't have to do anything about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, for me, I just always felt like I was born to do bigger things and just get by and take care of myself. And I realized to be able to help other people, I needed to do something bigger and not just work, do the 40-40-40 plan or work at some desk for 40 years, 40 hours a week, to retire someday. So yeah, that's why I've got, it's an interesting mindset. And not everybody needs to have it. It doesn't mean everybody needs to be a business owner. It doesn't mean everybody needs to be an entrepreneur. It just means that, and the biggest thing when I really studied how money works and look at there's a story about a UPS driver. I think it might be there's a book I read. I can't remember which one it was. But he made like minimum wage. He was driving up a UPS truck. Like this was back in probably the 70s or 80s. And I think it was the 70s. But anyways, he was diligent about saving. He saved first. And by the time he retired, he had built up over $1 million of net worth through his investments. And even though he never made more than, $30,000, $40,000 a year. And, and it just goes to show you it's not, and nothing too, it's not how much you make, it's what you do with what you make. Obviously you can do things that will help you get there faster. The more money you make, the more you can accelerate to getting to that $1 million goal, whatever that goal is. But it's just about having those consistent habits that can make or break everything. And it kills me to see a lot of people who, especially they're getting closer to retirement and then they have a reset. I mean, this year, anybody who was going to retire this year, who hit this year with a reset in the market, and you lose 30-40% like they did in March, so that could take years to get back. And I've seen in my family from 2008 where they lost so much in their retirement, they had to work an extra 5-6 years beyond their planned retirement age because they had to make up the money they lost. And so it's just unfortunate.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting what you guys are doing in terms of the path that you steer towards people, right? You help them with their financials and their financial literacy, helping them understand, changing that mindset, but also then sort of, if they're interested, of course, you just can guide them towards real estate, right? And then how do you guide them towards real estate? What is that? What does that look like? And what kind of real estate do you suggest that they kind of?
Oh, we're big fans of multifamily. We've done the single family stuff for a little. We tried that for a while, realized that more units is better than less units. And for us, it's more of just teaching the principles of investing and then educating them about the different options that are available. Obviously, we're partial to multifamily because it's what we do. But then also it's just teaching them the strategies to give them options. One of the things I see so many people doing is they're investing most of their money into vehicles like 401ks and IRAs where your money's pretty much locked up. You don't have a lot of options. I know there's self-directed stuff out there, but for the most part, for most folks, that money's locked up. They can't touch it till they're 59 and a half. So they're going to pay a penalty. So I help them with strategies. I'm not saying you shouldn't invest there if it makes sense for you, but what are some other places? What are maybe a sacred account that you can put your money that's you're saving that money for options in the future? Because if you want to invest in real estate, most syndicators won't take you unless you have at least 50,000. Most want at least 100,000 to get in on a deal. Not to mention be accredited and all those other things. But if you don't have that cash, you can't go invest in these passive deals for a lot of them. And so teaching them how to have money set aside that's there. Grant talks about it. You store money to use it in the future. Like Grant doesn't like to use the word save, and I don't like the word save because it's storing it up till you have enough to deploy somewhere, whether it's real estate, your business, a business, other investments. I think Gary Vaynerchuk talks about a story where he had an opportunity to invest in Uber multiple times. He never did. Each investment was going to be like $25,000 or something around. It was low, and he didn't do it. But that one investment would have made him a lot of money if he had done it. Because this was back when Uber was. Nobody knew Uber was. But the point was, he had the money there to invest. He could have done it. It wasn't like his money was locked up somewhere and he couldn't have even had the options. If he didn't have the ability to do it, he never would have been presented the opportunity. So, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I think we're partial to apartments, right? To investing in apartment syndications. Both of us, I think we like that investment, but for a reason, I think, right? I think you can get great returns. You have
the tax benefits that, you know, they're not that often talked about. You know, you're getting appreciation, you get debt pay down. Plus, if you're involved in the syndication, it's pretty passive as well, right? That's why a lot of people like the stock market, because it's passive, right? But, you know, this is pretty passive as well. You find a good syndicator up front, and they'll do the work for you, right? And hopefully they'll make you wealthy. And, you know, to me, it's a vehicle that people don't often know about, unfortunately, right? I think it's a vehicle that more people, if they understood it as well, I think because it's real estate, it's dressed as real estate, right? People get scared of it, right? Oh, isn't real estate risky? Well, yeah, so is the stock market, right? So is anything you invest in, right? Everything is risky. You've just got to there's ways to mitigate that risk, just like you do in the stock market, right? You know, if you're going through a mutual funds, right, you rely on the manager. Well, it's the same in syndications. You rely on those general partners, and you've got to make sure that they're good ones so that you can enjoy those benefits. So I think that's go ahead.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that people get scares people is it's big. They think it's like it's just foreign. It's not taught anywhere, you know. One of the biggest lesson, I think I'll say one of the biggest lessons I've learned is if you don't know something, it just means you don't know it. You just got to go find somebody that knows it and then go learn it.
Yeah.
Like it's just a lot. If you don't you know, if you don't know how to invest in multifamily, it just means you don't have the knowledge yet. So go get the knowledge, go read the book, go to the networking event, meet the person that's doing it. There's always somebody that's in anything. You can always find somebody that's doing what you want to do. And I'm a big fan of finding someone that's done what you want to do and go model what they're doing. And, you know, just don't tell yourself you can't. Just say, I can, and I'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's so cool. Well, it's been a fun conversation, man. I love this stuff. You know, money is just interesting to me. Like, you know, and I mean that from a non-person that's obsessed with money or anything like that. I just like what it can provide, and it can be life changing. You know, if you do the right things with your life and with your money. But before we kind of dive into into like the 4 questions I like to ask people at the end, which you'll be redoing again if that works out. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about that we maybe haven't covered?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think we covered some really great topics today. I think, you know, obviously our biggest mission right now is your cash flow couple, what we're doing there. We do a lot of different, you know, strategies and solutions for folks, especially if you want to get into the real estate investing and things like that. But the other episode dives into those details. So go check out the other episode.
Well, yeah. Well, do you want to tell us? I usually ask at the end, but we can ask you here. Where can people find out more about you? Tell us what's going on.
So the one-stop shop is just go to yourcashflowcouple.com. You'll find our social medias on there. You can check out some videos we posted, other podcasts we've been on, and just get a little bio on who we are, what we do, and all about. So yourcashflowcouple.com is a one-stop shop.
Cool. Well, now's the part where I ask wrestling-related real estate questions. It'll be interesting. Maybe we'll have to compare the previous ones. I don't know if you managed to remember what I asked you last time. But the first question is, what would your wrestling name be? If you picked a wrestling name for yourself, what would that be?
Something to do with 10X and something to do with max out. Like, so I don't know. What do you think, Mike? You talked a couple times.
I was going to call you Mr. 10X.
Mr. 10X. That's Grant's, but okay.
Oh, he calls himself Mr. 10X, does he? Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. It works.
Okay. We won't tell him.
He's not a wrestler, so we won't tell him.
Yeah, plus I think you could take him anyway. My money, anyway.
He's pretty jacked for 60-some years old.
Yeah, he looks young. Yeah. So every wrestler has a special move, right? And there's a move where they hit, and it's once that move is hit, it's lights out, it's game over, right? Basically, that's their strength in wrestling. What is your special move in real estate? Or what is your strength?
My special move, whether it's real estate or just life in general, is I always believe I can do something. Like if I want to do something, I've never felt like I couldn't do it. Like, you know, early on, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I want to fly for the military. Like, there was no question I was going to accomplish that goal. I accomplished the pilot part of it. And same thing in real estate. I was like, multifamily was like, it's a big scary thing. Well, we'll figure it out. We're just going to go do it. So I think mine is mindset related. So I don't know. It's the mindset slam or something.
Mindset slam, yeah. But I love that aspect. The mindset, it's so important. And I talk about it all the time. But the mindset component is more than buying. Like the technical stuff is the real estate, right? Is how do you find a deal? How do you analyze it? How do you make an offer? All that stuff, right? That's kind of the technical side of it, right? But without the mindset stuff of it, you'll never get that far, right? You'll just stop at the first hurdle. Like anything that kind of gets in your way, you'll stop because your mindset isn't strong enough, and you know all that other things to go there. So yeah, I love the mindset stuff. In a wrestling match, when you get body slammed, it's down to the mat. It really hurts, right? It hurts through your soul, right? Even though people say wrestling is fake, it still hurts. Believe me, trust me. I've taken plenty of body slams. What's been the biggest body slam you've taken in your real estate career?
Yeah, so probably the biggest one I took was, so early on when I was on the path to becoming a pilot in the military. So I was really focused on that. We were interested in real estate, and I got sucked into, I won't name any names, but I got sucked into a program where I spent a lot of money, in tunes of like tens of thousands, to get into this program to learn about how to do it. But the timing was terrible because I was very focused on something else. So we didn't really implement a lot of things that we learned. I think we've implemented it long term. That was probably the biggest one though, because I spent a lot of money I didn't have to learn something that I wasn't able to implement. I mean, I don't regret it, but it was definitely something we had to work hard to pay off and overcome.
Yeah, but I think also there's something to be said about that, though. I think I have a similar mindset. It's fire, ready, aim, right? It's a place to take action, right? I've done that a few times. I'm like, oh, what am I doing here doing this, right? Because I didn't research what it is. I just took that action. But I think I would rather be like that, right? Rather be the one that takes the action, right? Ready, fire, ready, aim, and maybe never ever fire, right? It's better to kind of to take.
I'm definitely a fire, aim, ready for fire. Not even ready, just fire. Yeah. Fire, ready, aim.
Just fire. Just
fire. There you go. Fire. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, was there a moment that you were standing on the top rope, getting ready to jump, but you were too scared? What was it? And how did you overcome it?
Something else on the top rope. Too scared to jump.
Maybe starting your business, your first investment, partnering with your wife.
Yeah. What is something that I was scared to do? Well, I can't think of something particularly related to real estate, but an activity that I did that was, so my wife has always wanted to do skydiving. And I was always like, I thought it'd be cool to do, but it was never something I would ever like plan to do on my own. And so she booked it for us one time and we went, and that was scary. I didn't have a choice. I had a guy that was strapped to that pushed me on the airplane, but I loved it. So I mean, it was a good example of overcoming a fear. I love aviation. I love flying. I'm not as big of a fan of jumping out of the plane as I am flying. But that's probably one thing I could think of is just that was something that I was definitely nervous about and had apprehension. Kind of on the top rope of like, because you have the choice to back out all the way until you're in the plane and you're in the air, and so you always got to push yourself until you get to that point, and then it's just the only way back is down. So,
and I like that. Is if you're scared of jumping out of a plane, just jump out of a plane, right? But it's the same way. You can apply that to real estate, apply that to whatever you're doing, right? If you're scared of doing it, go ahead and do that, right? Face your fears head on, right? Just attack those fears, right? Because I think that's, it kind of shows that, and I have this myself, that we build something up in our heads so much, right? So many times we'll create a situation about something that's going to happen before we've even done that thing, right? And then we go and do it and we realize it wasn't that bad. And you probably, when you jumped out, you probably loved it, I'm guessing.
Maybe I had a blast. I want to do it again.
Yeah, exactly, right? But until you did that, you had all these things in your head. The parachute's not going to open. This is going to happen. The plane's going to go down. All these things. And then you jump and you're like, this is amazing. I love it, right? And I think that's so often what we do. And I know it's been so many times, like, maybe public speaking or whatever. There's been times I've had to public speak. I'm like, oh, they're not going to like what I'm going to say. There's blah, 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 blah. And I do it. I'm like, oh, that was amazing. I love it. I can't wait to do it again, right? But we've got to be careful. And I think that's such a cool point. That's a real analogy that you actually went through, right? If you're scared of jumping out of a plane, just jump out of a plane. That's awesome. Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on again and being the first ever repeat guest. I'm happy you're the first ever repeat guest because you're a great guest. And I'm glad we're getting to know each other more and more, getting to spend time talking to each other. But again, for everyone, it never hurts to remind people, where can they find you and find out more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again, Barry, for letting me be on again. Love having conversations. It's always fun and exciting. But you guys can find me online, just yourcashflowcouple.com. You can find our social medias and everything there. So good one-stop shop to look us up. Yourcashflowcouple.com.
Cool. Well, thanks, Nate. Have a great rest of your day, man. Go jump out of a plane.
All right, Barry. Sounds good. Let's go.